Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, COVID-19 Solutions, Support Employees with Coronavirus Symptoms. I'm Jennifer Koenig with Health Check 360. We have a great presentation for you today, but before we get started, I'd like to take care of a few housekeeping items. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, please type them into the questions section at the bottom of your screen. We will also be posting a recording of the webinar online, so if you would like to replay this presentation at a later date, it will be available. Today, we have Health Check 360's Jessica Mandot and Trent Tangen with us to break down how to support symptomatic employees and help them get the care they need to safely come back to work. With that, let's get started. Jessica, Health Check 360 has a lot of new solutions available to help companies address COVID-19 challenges and return to work strategies. Can you give us a quick recap of those solutions for anyone who might be new to our webinar series?
Definitely. Yeah, Jen. So for some of you that have joined the last few webinars, these are going to be a recap for you. But really, we're seeing 5 kind of key components to the return to work strategies that employers are looking at. Number 1 being some sort of health assessment or daily symptom tracker, the ability for them to be able to determine on a day-by-day basis whether or not employees should be coming into the place of work. Number 2 is temperature screenings. So the on-site option is very popular. Otherwise, giving employees thermometers to be able to do self-temperature screenings. Those are kind of 2 options specific to the temperature readings. Number 3 is where we're going to focus a lot of today on, which is case management solutions. So really some additional clinical support for those individuals that are symptomatic or are testing positive. Antibody testing is another one. I know PCR testing is a popular option that individuals are talking through, and there's a lot of new solutions that are coming out every day in regards to testing options. And then the last piece is some of the chronic care management, so specifically how COVID-19 impacts diabetes and hypertension management.
Great, thank you. Jessica, why should companies even be investing in solutions like this?
Yeah, so a lot of states are starting to come out and provide better guidance and even some mandatory requirements for the return to work solutions. So specifically having a health assessment that is asking on a daily basis what symptoms the employees are having and that dictating whether or not they can come into work. I know certain states are starting to mandate those solutions. Ensuring that we are really supporting employers in reducing any sort of liability. So making sure that they have the right solutions in place to really mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Employee satisfaction is a big one. Of course, employees feel better about their employers and about going into work if you're taking the right precautions to really support and reduce the spread of COVID-19. So from a morale standpoint, employees are looking to their employers for these types of solutions to ensure that if they're going to be coming back into work, that the necessary precautions are taking place.
Trent, there's been a lot in the news over the past several weeks about the impact of COVID-19 on higher risk individuals. So people with chronic conditions like blood pressure, diabetes. What are you seeing on this?
Yeah, Jen, really from the start of the COVID-19 outbreak, all of the leading health organizations have really warned that anybody with underlying health conditions is at an increased risk from side effects and severe complications as a result of COVID-19. And the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, they both have statements on their website that really talks to the point of how diabetes or hypertension, for example, compromise the immune system. And so because the immune system is taxed trying to work on the diabetes or the hypertension, it's not as readily available to fight off COVID-19. So there is a silver lining to this, though. The American Diabetes Association, for example, they go on to say that those, even if they do have diabetes, if they take care and they're managing their diabetes, taking their medication, doing the daily checks and monitoring their blood sugar levels, eating well, staying active, if they're doing the right things to keep their blood sugar levels in check, that they're they're at a reduced risk of the severe symptoms. So, there's really two main takeaways. It's important for those with chronic health conditions to be monitoring their health conditions and taking all the appropriate steps to make sure that their immune system in their body is as healthy as possible. But then two, if somebody does have COVID-19 symptoms with one of these underlying health conditions, it's important that they're immediately in contact with their primary care provider and talking about next steps on what they should be doing to treat the symptoms.
Trent, what type of statistics are you seeing around hospitalizations or ER visits related to these higher risk individuals?
Yeah, the CDC does have statistics out that really support the idea that if somebody does have an underlying health condition, it's really important that they are in contact with their provider as soon as possible, to not really wait and monitor the symptoms, rather call your provider and talk about next steps. So, for example, there are statistics that show members who are diagnosed with COVID-19, confirmed to have COVID-19 in inpatient stays, that the majority of those members, 57%, have hypertension. An additional 50% are obese. I bring that one up because obesity, we know, is a precursor to diabetes, to hypertension. And also 42% have metabolic disease. So most commonly what you'd see there is diabetes. And an additional 35% have cardiovascular disease. So, that is the population that is the most at risk. And you can see why, the impact that the COVID-19 is having on their overall health, resulting in inpatient stays. To take it one step further, the CDC also has similar statistics on mortality rates, and unfortunately those that, the same group of people, those with heart disease, with diabetes, high blood pressure, are at a higher risk of mortality from COVID-19 as opposed to somebody that does not have underlying health conditions. So again, it's important that we're reaching out and supporting people with symptoms and making sure that they're receiving the appropriate care.
Thanks, Trent. That's helpful. Jessica, there's a lot of different things that employers could be doing as part of their COVID-19 strategy. What are you seeing is that first step employers take as part of their strategy and as they get started?
Yeah, I would say at a bare minimum, and in a lot of states, because it is being required, companies are looking at the daily symptom tracker, that daily health assessment. So at a very minimum, this is kind of the starting point and the jumping off point, and some of the other solutions are more so add-ons to their ability to be tracking this. So whether it is using a third party like Health Check 360, I know some of the carriers are offering resources like this, whether it's included in your premiums or for an additional cost. This is kind of that starting off point and the ability for them to really start monitoring who should be in the office, who is symptomatic, whether or not they're getting tested, if they're seeing their provider, and just being able to track their progress over time.
Jessica, you kind of alluded to it already, but there's a lot of different services coming to market right now. What type of support are you seeing employers and their employees looking for?
Yeah, so that's kind of the biggest question that I'm getting when we're going through these daily symptom tracker conversations, and as we demo the different solutions that are available in that space. You go through, you show exactly the questions that we're asking as part of the assessment, the green light or the red light at the end on whether or not they should go back into work. And then the very first question I get from the HR team is, okay, well, now what? And so they're looking at me like, is this my responsibility to now track whether or not they are going to their physician, what their physician's saying to them? Are they then getting tested, what those test results are? So they're looking for that additional support, knowing that, number one, they don't necessarily want to be that close to this information. They want to know, we're all used to HIPAA and privacy rules, so they want to know only what's necessary. And they're not clinical experts. And so they want to be able to support the members, but don't necessarily have the right expertise or time, for that matter, to be tracking them from start to finish. So that's exactly the question that I'm getting is, what is next, and how can Health Check 360, or what type of solutions are available to support them? And our COVID-19 care management solution is one of them. So that kind of answers that question is, if somebody's told to stay home, our team would reach out to them to have a conversation around what is next, and helping them navigate the system, helping them connect with their physician, know exactly what questions to be asking their doctor. And then as they're navigating that system, helping them really understand what their doctor's treatment plan is for them, when they should be going back to work, and just supporting the member from start to finish on behalf of the employer.
Trent, what does that first outreach to a symptomatic employee look like? And what are the goals or the conversation topics with that employee on that call?
Yeah, great question, Jen. Jess did a great overview of a lot of the program, but I want to take one step back and talk about who's providing the outreach. The outreach is going to come from Health Check 360 W-2 employees. So we have a great team of registered nurses, certified health coaches, and we have medical director oversight. So a great team with experience that's going to be reaching out to the participants to guide them along the way. The first thing we're going to do, once we know that somebody's has a red "don't go to work" sign, we're going to reach out to that person and make sure that they understand what the results mean and that they're not going to work. So part of that is to protect the greater employee population and preventing somebody with COVID-19 symptoms from entering the workforce and potentially spreading the condition further. So we want to have an outreach to that person, and then really helping them to ask the questions and be that advocate for themselves that Jess was alluding to. So be in contact with your primary care provider. Helping them to understand what questions to ask, what information to provide. Do you have underlying health conditions, things like that. We also want to refer them to any benefit offerings that might be available. So many employer groups have telemedicine, so we'll certainly take advantage of that and refer members to telemedicine. If they don't have a primary care provider, we'll work with them to find somebody that's in network. And then also overviewing the employer's return to work plan. So when it is safe to return to work, what are the policies and procedures that the employer has in place? So we can help to communicate that so that the participant feels comfortable and confident in the next steps that they should be taking.
Trent, that sounds really great, but what about those employees who are high risk? Just a few minutes ago, you showed us a lot of stats around those people with chronic conditions, those hypertensives, those diabetics. Do you provide any additional support or outreach for those people who clearly need more help?
Yeah, absolutely. And we certainly can provide ongoing care management to the employee. So, that might look a couple different ways. So let's take somebody who is relatively healthy and they experience some symptoms that are related to COVID-19. And so we reach out to the person, we advise them to get in contact with their primary care provider. They do so. And then what we want to do is follow up and two things. Make sure that they actually did call their primary care provider and they have a treatment plan, and then support them in answering any questions they might have about what their doctor is prescribing them or what they want them to do. So if somebody is healthy, the doctor says, hey, you have some symptoms, stay home and self-monitor, we're going to follow up with them and help them to understand what that means, and asking them questions about their symptoms. And then also, again, providing recommendations on when they should be back in contact with their primary care provider or when they should be returning to work. There could be another example where we reach out to somebody and it's very obvious that they are labored breathing. And after talking with them further, we understand that they have diabetes. And so again, we'd want to get them in contact with their primary care provider and determine what those next steps and what their treatment plan should be. So then again, we're going to follow up, most importantly, making sure and confirming that you did go to or contact your provider. And if you didn't, we want to reassure how important that really is. And we can share some of the statistics and the concerns around that. But it's important, we talked about the inpatient stays and even the mortality rate. It's really important that somebody with health conditions is in contact with their provider. So once that happens, if the doctor, they might prescribe additional tests. So we're going to work with that person to help them find labs where those tests are available and help them to schedule those appointments. It could be unfortunate where somebody goes inpatient, and we will guide them through that process of when they are inpatient and helping them with the discharge plan, making sure that they are ready and that the discharge timing is appropriate. that they have care set up at home, any medications they might need to be on, that they have a plan in place in order to receive those medications and to take care of themselves. And then we're going to provide regular follow-up, every 2 to 3 days, working with that person right up to the time that they return to work, and even after they return to work, to make sure that they have a full recovery, and that the symptoms don't get worse and they don't end up going back into the hospital because they weren't appropriately taking care of themselves. So we're going to guide the participants every step of the way. We want them to feel confident. They're going through a stressful time, so let our team manage all of the appointments, all of the rescheduling, answering any questions they have so that they can focus on themselves and recovering.
Trent, I really like that extra layer of support, especially for those people who need it the most. But how do you help keep the HR teams up to date with the status of the members that your team's working with?
Yeah, that's certainly, one of the bigger stress points and pain points that we want to help HR teams with is if somebody does have symptoms for COVID-19, who's doing the follow-up? So of course, we want to do that follow-up, but we also know it's very important that we keep the HR teams up to date on what's going on with their team. So we've got an admin portal that the HR team will have access to. And this is the exact same portal that our care management team is going to be accessing and providing updates to. So it's going to show the symptoms of what's going on, the temperatures, the symptoms that are related, but we're also going to be updating the disposition. So if somebody is confirmed to have COVID-19, or if somebody was recommended gone inpatient stay, or if they are just seeking medical treatment, we can update all of those statuses so the employer has real-time access to know what the conversation looks like and what the next steps are for that employee. So they will always be informed of where that person stands in the recovery and the return to work process.
Well, that's really great, Trent, that the HR team has real-time access to all of the updates that your team is providing to their highest risk members. That's really incredible. Jessica, Trent, any closing comments?
I think kind of the big things, number one, making sure that we're helping to stop the spread as much as we possibly can, making sure that your employees know all the solutions that you're putting in place and policies that your company is now creating in order to stop that spread. And then I think number two, there are solutions in place that can help you from an HR standpoint make your lives a little bit easier with all of this. So through the administrative portal that Trent mentioned, and just some of these solutions like the daily symptom tracker, it just means that you don't have to be tracking all of this yourself, and there is some of that additional support. And Trent, I'll let you add to that.
So yeah, I would just add to that we understand that there's a lot going on, especially for HR teams and the whole return to work process, with different policies and procedures in place and really monitoring and taking care of the employees. So that is something that we can help HR teams with, is making sure that there is additional follow-up for employees and understanding what steps that they should take to take care of themselves. And then also understanding what steps to take in terms of return to work. And part of that too is to protect the greater population and reaching out to participants and assuring that somebody with COVID-19 symptoms is not returning to work too early and potentially causing a greater spread of COVID-19 in the workplace. And lastly, we know that there are participants out there that have underlying health conditions, and they are unfortunately at an increased risk of severe complications, inpatient stays, and even mortality as a result of if they do contract COVID-19. So we want to make sure that they are receiving treatment early and that they are following their primary care provider's recommendations and treatment plan.
That was really great information. Thank you both for your time today and sharing your expertise. We'd now like to open it up to our audience to ask a few questions. If you have any questions, please type them into the question section at the bottom of your screen. And in the meantime, be sure to sign up for next week's webinar to learn how you can support those employees with chronic conditions. And also remember to subscribe to our blog for the latest on Health Check 360. Jessica or Trent, one of our first questions here today from our audience: does an employer need to purchase the COVID-19 Symptom Tracker to take advantage of the resources provided by your care management team?
Yeah, good question. So no, they don't need to. If there's some other tracking system that they currently utilize, or maybe they're doing it manually themselves and they just want that additional layer of support, we can definitely accommodate that and provide care management as a standalone. Obviously, since it's not fully integrated, there's some logistics that we would have to work through with your organization. So don't rule it out. It's definitely an option. It just will take a little bit of logistics around how we're getting the data, how we know who to outreach to, where we're tracking it, those types of things.
Is your team able to stop someone from actually going to work?
Trent, you want to take that?
I will. Yep. No, that's a good question. No, because we're working remotely. Our goal is to reach out to the participants and make sure that they understand what the symptom tracker is telling them and the recommendation. So the first thing that the participant's going to see once they complete the symptom tracker, and let's say that they do get the red "don't go to work" sign, there will be 4 or 5 steps there that are customizable to the employer on what exact steps that they should take. So that's step 1. As soon as they complete it, they have immediate actions to take. Don't go to work, be in contact with your primary care provider, and any additional recommendations that are provided. Our goal is to reach out to the participant and make sure that they understand what those steps are and to work with them on the care management plan that was provided by their primary care physician.
Great, thank you. Hey, Trent, the next question I think is for you as well. How quickly does the care management team reach out after the member has gotten that red light from the tracker?
Yeah, that's another good question and great point of clarification. I'll kind of repeat the last answer just a little bit, but remember the first thing that the participant's going to see on their mobile app or computer when they're completing the assessment is they'll have immediate instructions there. Specific to the employer again. So don't go to work, be in contact with your primary care provider. Our team is going to be reaching out within 24 business hours. So we're going to be reaching out as quickly as we can to make sure that that participant, that they understand, did you call your provider? What did they say? What are the next steps to complete? Making sure that they feel comfortable with their treatment plan and understanding the return to work instructions that are provided and are the policy of their employer.
Great, thank you. Trent, is your team actually diagnosing COVID-19?
Yeah, another great point of clarification. No, our team we're not able to diagnose or confirm if somebody has COVID-19. What we're doing is we're following the research that all of the leading health organizations are providing and using that information to update our symptom tracker. And what we're looking for are the most common symptoms that are related to COVID-19. So we are telling somebody if they have symptoms that are related to COVID-19, but we're not confirming if it actually is COVID-19 or doing any diagnostics there. Again, we need to leave that up to the participant's primary care provider on what those steps are. And so we'll support them if their primary care provider wants them to do additional testing. We can help them to navigate that and understand and where to complete the tests and help them to schedule those appointments.
One thing I would just clarify, and the way I think about it is, we're not, don't think of it like a telemedicine service. So think of it more of your health plans all have a case manager or nurse case manager that supports for complex case review. It's along those lines. So similar to large or complex cases and not telemedicine.
Thanks for that, Jessica. How long is the implementation and what information would Health Check 360 need from the employer?
Yeah, implementation is roughly about 2 weeks. Again, it depends if you're using our daily symptom tracker and we're just tagging this as an additional service on top of it, or if we're tagging it on to something that you're already utilizing either in-house or with a different service provider. But I would say typically about 2 weeks. The information that we're going to want, we'll have an eligibility file that we'll request that has some identifying information, the person's name, email, phone number, those types of things.
Thank you.
I'll add on to that. Well, just some information about the benefit plan as well. So what benefits are available? Is there telehealth that is available that we can refer participants to, and some network information. So we're happy to help participants find an in-network provider if they don't already have one. So just some information regarding those additional benefits.
Trent, the next question I think is for you as well. So their employer has numerous shifts. Will care management be available 24/7?
Our immediate team will be available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time, but we do have access to a 24/7 nurse line for after hours. So we will reach out to people during our standard time and following up if they leave a voicemail or send an email, what have you. We'll reach out as soon as we can. But if they do call us, they will have access to a 24/7 nurse line for those after hours needs.
Yeah, one thing again to clarify. So if we've got someone who maybe they take the symptom tracker at 8 a.m., we'll reach out within, if it's Monday through Thursday, we'll reach out within that 24-hour period. If it's Friday at 8 a.m., our goal is, within a 24-hour period of there. But let's say it's Friday at 8 p.m. if you have multiple shifts. Since that's after our hours that our nurses are there, they'll call first thing, Monday morning. So that's what Trent means within that kind of 24-hour period of business days.
Yeah.
Great, thanks, Jess. Do we have the ability to provide FDA-approved COVID-19 tests and or antibody testing at the same time as a wellness screening?
Yes, so we do, I should say, we do have the ability to do on-site and near-site antibody testing. We are still looking at different solutions for PCR or more diagnostic testing solutions. And then if you do want to, a lot of our groups that are providing the wellness screenings, they do want that antibody test as an additional test for their wellness screening. So yes, we do have the ability to add the antibody test on to the wellness screenings or have it as a standalone solution if you're looking for a screening option. It is the Abbott Labs antibody test for their IgG, so it's one of the highest quality tests on the market.
Thank you, Jessica. This next one is related to that first question as well. So what about the ability for some at-home COVID-19 testing?
Yeah, so we, again, don't have a solution right now for home PCR testing. We have a team dedicated to looking at all sorts of different solutions that are available. Right now, there are some available, not any that meet the criteria that we are or have put in place as the criteria that we want in order to provide that solution to our clients and put the Health Check 360 name on it. But as soon as we do find one that meets our criteria, we will be offering it.
Great, thank you, Jessica. Is the outreach part of the Symptom Tracker product, or is this an add-on feature?
Yeah, so it depends. If you would like us to add it on to the daily symptom tracker, we definitely can. But the daily symptom tracker does not automatically come with the care management solution. It is something that you can choose whether or not you'd like to add it on as an additional service.
Wonderful, thank you so much. That's all there is for questions. So I hope everyone enjoyed our presentation today. All attendees will receive a follow-up email with links to the presentation recording and contact information. As a reminder, episode 4 of our 4-part webinar series is coming up next week, showcasing our chronic condition management program and how this fits with your COVID-19 strategy. If you're not already registered for this webinar, you can access the link on our website or our LinkedIn page. This concludes today's presentation. Stay safe, stay healthy, and take care.